Hello guys and gals, and this is part 7 of our reading of Whodunit, You Decide, Many Mysteries for You to Solve, by Conrad and illustrated by Lucy Corvino. Now, as always, we look at the copyright information, which says all rights reserved, and we are going to continue here. In the last one, it was about an oil change, I think. This one is called Trials of the Black Widow. Looks like she's pouring something. For 2 months, the exclusive community of Palm Bay had been obsessed with a murder that many of the most influential citizens actually witnessed. You and your 11 colleagues feel lucky to sit here every day and weigh the evidence against this beautiful and some might add deadly woman of the world. It was less than a year ago that Annabelle Lee, I know her. I'm sure this is a fictional one, but wow. I'm pretty sure that I do know her. Anyways, it was less than a year ago that Annabelle Lee moved to Palm Bay, renting a tastefully expensive beach house. A vivacious and stunning woman, Annabelle quickly made friends, especially with Victor Ricola, next-door neighbor and a retired financier. They were engaged within 2 months, married within 3. In his opening statement, the district attorney outlines the events of Victor's final garden party of the season, his last garden party ever. The festivities were in full swing on that sunny afternoon. When the host asked his wife to fetch him a drink, Annabelle had just sent the bartender off for more limes, so she made it herself, expertly mixing the gin and tonic and adding ice from an electric ice cooler plugged into an outlet by in the gazebo. She tasted the drink, pronounced it delicious, and handed the glass to Victor, who used a paper napkin to wipe a red gash of lipstick off the rim before drinking. That was the last contact that Annabelle had with her husband. For the next half hour, Victor sipped his drink, munched on a catered buffet of overpriced delectables, and chatted with his neighbors. At one point, he borrowed a cigarette from his best friend and tennis partner, Keith Brown, but smoked only half before snubbing it out. When Victor collapsed on the lawn, clutching his throat, no one even imagined poison, except the poisoner, of course. 3 plastic surgeons and a dermatologist made vain attempts to revive him, and all this while the servants were busy washing glasses and disposing of whatever evidence might have existed of the murder. Annabelle tried to arrange a quick cremation, but Palm Bay law required an autopsy. The result left no doubt: potassium cyanide, guaranteed to give effective results within a matter of minutes. Okay, now that's interesting. Let me change my position here real quick. A matter of minutes. Okay. So, prosecution. The prosecution will show that last month, Mrs. Ricola drove to Boca Raton to purchase an industrial metal cleaner, a clear liquid composed primarily of potassium cyanide. We'll also show that this was not the first time Annabelle Lee Ricola, born Amy Long, and also known as Annie Lyons and Andrea Leon, has lost a husband under suspicious circumstances. In the last 2 previous instances, she married wealthy men. In both of these cases, her husband died within a year. In both cases, their remains were cremated. Annabelle Lee is what crime literature calls a black widow, someone who weds and kills with impunity. It is your job, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, to see that her crime spree stops here. Annabelle's lawyer was dismissive. There is no evidence connecting my client to this crime, so she bought a metal cleaner. She likes to clean house. As for opportunity, cyanide is a fast-acting poison, and yet Mrs. Ricola and her husband had no contact with each other for at least half an hour, for the last half hour of his life. Other suspects abound. The Ricola's housekeeper, Emma Peters, had been the deceased mistress for years before he threw her over threw her over for the defendant. The deceased's best friend, Keith Brown, had been an ardent suitor of Annabelle's before the marriage. Both Emma Peters and Keith Brown had motives just as compelling as my client's, and even greater opportunity. You get the feeling that no matter who poisoned Victor, there may not be enough evidence to prove it. Still, the question remains, who killed Victor Ricola and how? Okay, trial witness and evidence. This crime can be solved in 2 clues. Prosecution, witness, toxicologist. The toxicologist. Luckily, Green Lady Catering uses distinctly colored garbage bags. We were able to recover all the party trash from the dump and sift through it. We limited ourselves to items Mr. Ricola was observed ingesting. The videotape helped us in this regard. We also checked containers that might have held the poisoned item. What did you find? We found liquid traces of potassium cyanide in a plastic food storage bag, the kind with blue and yellow stripes on top. We also tested a tiny patch of dead grass near the spot where Mr. Ricola collapsed. Again, we found minute traces of cyanide. In both cases, the chemical composition matched that of a common industrial metal cleaner. Objection. Information not asked for. Were the traces of cyanide consistent with the ingredients of the industrial metal cleaner? Exhibit B. Yes. Prosecution witness housekeeper. Emma Peters, the Ricola housekeeper, had helped the caterers clean up and was observed disposing of several food storage bags. Do you remember what happened with the storage bags? As far as I can recall, I threw away 3 of them, all with those blue and yellow stripes on top. That's the kind Green Lady uses. I buy the same brand for the Ricola household. One of the bags came from behind the buffet table. I think they were using it for parsley. The other 2 came from the bar area in the gazebo. One was used to store garnish items for drinks. The other I found inside the electric ice cooler. Prosecution witness caterer. Mrs. Ricola's behavior seemed a little odd that day. For one thing, she insisted on doing many things our staff normally does. Things like personally filling the ice cooler and stocking the garnish bins with lemons and limes and cherries. We tried to tell her diplomatically that we would take care of those details, but she insisted on doing them herself. Did you ever cater for the Ricola household before? No. So you never worked for Mrs. Ricola before. In fact, that was the first time you ever met her. That's correct. So you have no way of knowing what her normal behavior was and what might have been odd. In fact, she might normally be an independent person who likes to do things for herself. I suppose. Cross-examination. Toxicologist. You've told the court where you found traces of poison, but where didn't you find traces? On everything else. You tested the paper napkins with the red lipstick smear, the lipstick tube, the cigarette butts, dessert canapes, drinking glasses? No, not the glasses. They had all been washed, but you tested everything else I mentioned. Yes. And the results of those tests, no trace of poison on any of them. Defense Exhibit A, party videotape. Victor Ricola had hired a video company to make a tape of the party, thereby capturing a record of his own demise. By a lucky fluke, the videotape focuses on Victor in the minutes just prior to his death. Videotape. Victor is in the midst of his friends, nursing the last quarter of his gin and tonic. He stubs out his cigarette in an ashtray as Keith Brown deposits a plate of half-eaten food on a table and walks away. Victor absentmindedly eats a potato chip from the plate. Emma Peters passes by with a tray of dessert canapes. Several guests munch on the little sweets, including Victor. Halfway through his first bite, Victor clutches at his throat and collapses, dropping both the canape and his glass on the lawn. The videotape continues to roll until the arrival of Mrs. Ricola and the first doctor. Okay. Okay, that's the verdicts. We need, deliberation. Here it is. Deliberations. Let's see. It should be under... Okay, let me see if I can find the right page here. Okay. Trial of the Black Widow. You wonder, with other jury members, how you could poison someone at a garden party. Could it have been a random act of buffet terrorism, or had the poison been intended for someone else? You quickly put these thoughts aside. That's not your job. You're here to evaluate the innocence or guilt of one person, Annabelle Lee Ricola. The only hard evidence is, in this case, is the trace of cyanide found in the plastic storage bag and on the grass. Juror, can we trust Emma Peters as a witness? If we can, then we know that Annabelle had contact with at least 2 storage bags, and one used to hold the drink garnishes, and the other found in the electric ice cooler. Second juror, that doesn't get us anywhere. Cyanide is a fast poison. There's no garnish in Victor's drink, and he had been sipping it for half an hour. Third juror, the poison was in liquid form. It would have been hard to plant on a dry food like a potato chip. Hard, but not impossible. You decide to ask for the videotape from the bailiff and watch it again, hoping that it will provide some inspiration. Annabelle did buy liquid cyanide, and she certainly has a history of different names and dead husbands. But does that prove she's a killer? Let's check the thing here. Trial. Here. Yeah. Trial of the Black Widow verdict. You have no choice but to find... you have no choice but to find Annabelle Lee Long Lyons Leon Ricola not guilty. But during your 2 days of deliberation, you did manage to figure out how she could have arranged her husband's poisoning. A day before the party, Annabelle could have worked up a special batch of ice cubes. Recipe. Fill ice tray 1/3 full of water. While it freezes, boil a pan of marbles or some other small objects. Remove ice tray from freezer and place a hot marble in the center of each ice cube. Just long enough to create a depression in the cube. Drain off melted water, then quickly fill the depression with liquid cyanide. Freeze the mixture, then fill the rest of the ice tray with water and return to freezer. Keep in a cool, safe place until ready to use. On the day of the party, Annabelle could have filled a plastic bag with her poisoned cubes and stored it in the bottom of the electric cooler beneath 100 pounds of real ice. Having herself arranged the paltry supply of limes, she could have conveniently sent the bartender off for more, then mixed Victor's drink, adding her own special ice cubes. She would have made sure to taste the drink in front of witnesses, then stay far away from Victor until the ice cubes melted and the cyanide was released. The dead grass could have been caused by Victor spilling the last of his poisoned drink. Since Annabelle wouldn't have had a chance to clean up after herself, she would have had to trust to fate. Remember, this was before anyone suspected murder. A person cleaning out the cooler would have simply tossed out the remaining ice and disposed of the bag. We have been reading from Whodunit, You Decide, Mini Mysteries for You to Solve by Conrad and illustrated by Lucy Corvino. If you like this content, make sure you like and subscribe and ring the bell so you know when I upload. And if you want to support me in any way, all that information will be in the description below. As always, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.